So imagine this. You're an early human living in an agricultural society. Things are rough. Food is often scarce when the crops aren't in season, and you deal with this by consuming as much energy as you can, as much food as you can when it's available, and conserving energy whenever possible. Your body helps this process by storing whatever excess energy it can as fat. Now, doing these behaviors gives you a selective advantage over other members of your species. And as a result, your genetic material is more likely to be passed on to the following generation. And these genes that drove these behaviors are also likely to be passed along. So usually when we talk about natural selection, we think about survival of the fittest, but there's another type of selection that's often overlooked, fertility selection. And that's the type that's at play in this case. So women in early agricultural societies who were not able to store fat and didn't consume energy when they had it available, they didn't consume enough food, they were less likely to successfully conceive and gestate children. But women who were able to store fat due to the presence of thrifty genes could successfully gestate children because they could draw on fat stores to help nourish the fetus. So this gave them a big selective advantage over women who could not do this, resulting in the thrifty genes being passed on to the next generation. So modern humans have many conveniences. So let's fast forward now to modern society. We can get food whenever we want, basically. It's really easy. We can order off of Uber Eats by just pressing on our smartphone, and we don't even have to go and get the food. Someone brings it to our house. We don't even have to wear pants if we don't want to. So in this case, modern society is clearly very different from what our ancestors dealt with. There are a lot less challenges, and it's a lot easier to get food. But we're actually very similar to those early ancestors because societal change may be fast, but evolution is a very slow process. So we still have those drives from those thrifty genes to consume as much food as we can when we are able to, and to conserve energy. But the problem is that in modern society, we can always get food. It's always easy. So these drives become maladaptive in modern society while they were adaptive in early society. So we conserve energy whenever possible still, even though we don't have to spend nearly as much energy as our ancestors. So we wind up storing more and more energy as fat and never expending it. So our bodies are constantly preparing us for a famine that will never come by storing this fat, but the food shortages don't really happen in the same way anymore, so we never have to deal with the actual famine, and we never really use those fat stores in the same way. So fast food in particular kind of preys on these urges. So our body uses flavor cues like sweetness and saltiness to determine what's energy-rich, valuable food. So fast food corporations take advantage of this to try and sell more of their product by making saltier French fries, sweeter ice cream, and just generally more calorie-rich food. So the modern human kind of struggles to suppress their urges from these thrifty genes and succumbs often to them and eats the fast food whenever they can, because that's what we're driven to do by our genes. So the combination of these factors, the presence of our thrifty genes and the ease of accessibility of food, can partially explain the obesity epidemic. So obesity is a global epidemic that is one of the leading causes of preventable death in today's society worldwide. And from 2004 to 2016, obesity has risen from 315 million individuals worldwide to over 650 million, more than doubling in a period of only 12 years. In the same time period, fast food has continued to see increased growth, growing from an annual revenue in the United States of $160 billion to $273 billion. And these timeframes are strikingly similar. This doesn't necessarily mean that one thing is causing the other. There's no evidence for that, but it's certainly an interesting trend to note. And in general, this data shows that obesity is clearly continuing to get worse. So understanding its possible causes is very crucial to potentially solving the problem. So this may seem like kind of a tough problem to solve because it's written into our genes to prefer these foods. But luckily, we have our good old friend, the brain, to rely on, and we can use conscious cognitive effort to overcome these urges that we have by using strategies such as implementation intentions. So what that is just setting a concrete goal and coming up with concrete action plans to enact whenever you're in a certain situation. So if your goal is to eat healthy, you would set the goal of avoiding fast food when you're in a rush and trying instead to look for healthier alternatives. And this clearly isn't a full solution to the problems I've outlined here, but it's certainly a place to start when tackling obesity. Thank you.